the gentle truth we forget. There's a moment in life, maybe it's happening to you right now, when you feel like something inside you is shattered. You can't name it exactly. You just know that you've been drifting through days that don't feel like they belong to you. You wake up with a heaviness you can't explain, and deep down, you fear that the problem isn't your job, your relationships, or your circumstances. It's you, that somehow you are fundamentally broken. Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers in psychology, would have looked you in the eye and said, "You are not broken. You are simply on the wrong path." This isn't a fluffy affirmation. It's a statement grounded in decades of observing the human psyche. Jung believed that beneath our confusion, mistakes, and detours lies something whole, an inner self that is always reaching for the life it was meant to live. When we feel lost, it's not because we're defective. It's because we've wandered away from the trail that was uniquely ours to walk. Think about it. If a seed falls onto rocky soil and struggles to grow, we don't say the seed is broken. We say it needs the right environment. In the same way, your struggles might be less about who you are, and more about where you are heading. Jung's work reminds us that misalignment is not a life sentence. It's a signpost, a gentle or sometimes painful nudge from the unconscious, urging us to turn toward the direction where we can truly thrive. Carl Jung's view of the human psyche. To understand why Jung could say with such confidence that you're not broken, we need to understand how he viewed the human mind. Jung saw the psyche not as a machine that could break down irreparably, but as a living, evolving ecosystem. At its core is the self, not the ego, not our daily personality, but a deeper organizing principle that seeks balance and growth. Jung's psychology rests on the idea that our conscious mind is only a small island in a vast sea of the unconscious. Beneath our awareness lies a rich world of symbols, instincts, and forgotten truths about ourselves. The unconscious is not an enemy to be fought, but a partner. A guide that uses dreams, emotions, and even crises to get our attention when we stray from our authentic path. In this framework, the feeling of being broken is often the ego's reaction to losing its bearings. It's as if we've been driving in fog, with only partial visibility, and suddenly panic when we realize we might be lost. Jung's point was that the deeper self still knows the way. Our task is not to fix ourselves as though we're damaged goods, but to reconnect with that inner compass. The concept of the wrong path in Jungian psychology. When Jung spoke of being on the wrong path, he wasn't moralizing. He wasn't saying you've made unforgivable mistakes or that you're living in sin. Instead, he meant that the path you're walking doesn't match the blueprint of your deeper nature. It might be a career you chose to please your family, a relationship built on avoiding loneliness instead of love, or a way of living shaped by fear rather than curiosity. The wrong path often feels safe at first. It might even bring you status, comfort, or the approval of others. But over time, the misalignment starts to whisper, and then shout. You feel restless, anxious, and unfulfilled, even when everything should be fine. Jung believed these symptoms are not random but intentional, the unconscious sending distress signals to wake you up. From a Jungian lens, the wrong path isn't a dead end. It's part of your individuation process, the journey toward becoming your true self. Sometimes, you have to walk the wrong road to recognize what the right one feels like. Pain, in this context, is not punishment, it's information. Individuation, the journey toward wholeness. At the heart of Jung's psychology is the concept of individuation. This is the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are. not who the world told you to be, not the mask you wear to be accepted, but the integrated whole version of yourself. Individuation isn't about improving or fixing yourself. It's about uncovering and integrating what was already there. When you're on the wrong path, individuation feels stalled. You might sense that parts of you are being left behind. Your creativity, your curiosity, your sense of wonder. You may notice that you behave differently in public than you do in private, as if two versions of you are living parallel lives. Jung saw this as a symptom of fragmentation, the conscious ego going one way, the deeper self yearning to go another. True individuation requires honesty, sometimes painfully so. It means looking at your life and asking, does this truly reflect me? Or is this a role I learned to play? That question can feel uncomfortable, because it often reveals just how far we've drifted from our center. But Jung believed that this discomfort is the doorway to authenticity. The wrong path is not wasted time, it's the contrast that makes the right path unmistakable when you finally see it. The shadow self and misalignment. Jung's idea of the shadow is one of his most famous contributions to psychology. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves we reject, deny, or hide. Qualities we don't want to admit we have because they don't fit the image we've built of ourselves. Ironically, these buried parts often contain exactly the traits we need to realign our path. When you're on the wrong path, the shadow starts to leak out in subtle ways. You might feel irrational irritation, envy, or a strange pull toward things you shouldn't want. These feelings are clues. They're your unconscious trying to remind you of lost desires, abandoned talents, or unexplored callings. For example, someone who sees themselves as highly rational might secretly crave a creative outlet, but they've buried that desire because it doesn't fit their self-image. Jung taught that integrating the shadow is essential for finding the right path. This doesn't mean acting on every impulse or indulging every desire. It means acknowledging the full spectrum of who you are, so your decisions are made from wholeness, not from a half-self that's trying to live up to an artificial standard. Archetypes and life direction. Jung also introduced the concept of archetypes, universal patterns or characters that live in the collective unconscious and shape our stories, dreams, and life choices. Examples include the hero, the caregiver, the sage, and the explorer. These archetypes are like inner guides, each with its own lessons and challenges. When we're on the wrong path, we might be living out an archetype that isn't truly ours. Maybe you've been playing the role of the dutiful caregiver, when deep down your soul longs to be the explorer, traveling, discovering, and taking risks. Or maybe you've been the hero, constantly rescuing others, when what you truly need is to step into the sage role, sharing wisdom instead of charging into battle. Jung would say that realigning your path involves listening to which archetype is calling you now. These roles can shift throughout life, but ignoring the one that's emerging can lead to a persistent feeling of emptiness. Recognizing your archetypal direction is like realizing you've been reading the wrong chapter of your life story, and finally turning to the right one. Suffering as a signpost, not a sentence. One of Jung's most compassionate insights is that suffering is not proof of brokenness, it's often a sign you're being called to grow. He saw emotional pain not as a meaningless burden but as a teacher. In his view, when life becomes unbearable, it's often because you've outgrown the role you're playing, but you haven't yet stepped into the one that fits. Suffering forces us to stop pretending. It strips away the distractions and comfort zones that keep us from asking hard questions. While it's tempting to numb the discomfort, Jung believed that doing so delays the very transformation that could set us free. This doesn't mean we should romanticize suffering or seek it out, but when it arrives, it can be reframed, not as a punishment, but as the psyche's way of saying, "This is not your home. Keep walking." In this light, the wrong path is not a failure. It's a messenger. Modern life, disconnection, and the wrong path. Jung's insights feel even more urgent today. We live in a world saturated with external voices telling us who we should be. Social media shows us curated lives that make us question our own. Career culture rewards productivity over meaning. Even well-meaning friends and family can pressure us into roles that don't fit. This constant noise makes it easy to mistake someone else's dream for your own. You might follow a career because it's respected, not because it lights you up. You might chase a relationship because it looks perfect on the outside, while your heart quietly wilts inside it. In Jungian terms, modern life gives us endless opportunities to wander from the self, but it also offers unprecedented tools for finding our way back. The challenge is learning to tune out the noise long enough to hear the quiet voice of your own psyche. Practical steps to realign your path. Jung's work wasn't just theory. It offers practical ways to realign when you realize you're on the wrong path. One approach is active imagination, a technique where you dialogue with figures from your dreams or imagination to uncover hidden truths. Another is shadow work, which involves consciously exploring and integrating the parts of yourself you've ignored. Self-reflection, journaling, and therapy can also help you detect patterns of misalignment. Jung believed that symbols and recurring images in dreams are especially powerful clues. They bypass the rational mind and speak directly to the deeper self. Most importantly, realignment often requires courage. The willingness to disappoint others, change direction, or let go of what's familiar. Jung acknowledged that this can feel like death to the ego, but it's actually the birth of a more authentic life. Conclusion: you were never broken. If you take one message from Jung's perspective, let it be this: you are not defective. You are not beyond repair. The sense of brokenness you feel is not a diagnosis, it's an invitation. You are simply somewhere you don't belong yet, playing a role that no longer fits, living in a story that isn't yours. Your inner self knows the way home. It has been speaking to you in the language of restlessness, dissatisfaction, and longing. These are not flaws to suppress. They are compass needles pointing you toward your true path. As Jung might say, your task is not to fix yourself, but to find yourself. And when you do, you'll see that you were never broken at all. You were just waiting to walk the road that was yours all along.